into the new episode now.
Oh.
Take it away, Cosmic, and tell us all about metal. Thanks for sharing that Schizo's record.
Let Richie go first. Richie's already got an album ready to roll.
No, he just shows Schizos every single time we talk.
I'll go first. We got this album here called His Band and the Street Choir. Do you know who that is?
That fuckwit. Yes.
That's a good album, man. And then I think he followed it up with this one, Moon Dance. And then maybe my favorite is St. Dominic's Preview, is it? Look at that guy, man. How could you hate a guy with a face like that? Look at that.
You know how I have a question in my interviewing the VC with most punchable singers? That's that face. Yeah, thanks. I feel a little bit ill now. I appreciate that.
I thought we would start this off with a bang, you know?
Yeah. We can only get better after that. Take it away.
I went and seen it back in, like, I don't know, I suppose it was, let me look at the record here. I think it was probably 86. I was living in Dallas again, and we'd go down in a place called Deep Ellum, which was a place where all these clubs were. And this band was already starting to make some noise as far as coming out of LA. But they hadn't hit it like super big yet. But when I seen them in this club, I knew that after watching them live that they were going to be a pretty big band. I mean, fairly big and that's Faster Pussycat. Now, you guys can poke fun all you want, but these guys are a fun band, man. And this is pretty raw, almost a little kind of, I know they're kind of glammy, but they also have a little punkiness like to their vibe. And then of course their next album came out and then it blew up and they were all over MTV and they were, probably went platinum with this record. And I remember seeing them.
I only know their debut, that one there. That's a good record.
I don't know how it was over there, but from my perspective, they kind of over here sold them as like the new Guns N' Roses.
Well, they were kind of like that sleaze, what I called sleaze rock.
Yeah, because remember when Guns N' Roses come out, they were kind of marketed to separate them from like the hair metal, like they're like a real dangerous rock and roll band. And Faster Pussycat were kind of pushed into that territory, whether it was by themselves or marketing or whatever. But they were seen as a bit more real than the hair metal bands back then. I do remember them.
Yeah, a little more street punk kind of to it. Them and like LA Guns were like the same way. They kind of got thrown into that same kind of subgenre.
Yeah, I saw LA Guns live and they did nothing at all for me. I didn't. It was kind of boring. I didn't like it.
Was it LA Guns that a whole heap of other like people went through and then went on and were Motley Crue and other bands like that? Was it them or am I thinking of another band?
I think Guns N' Roses came out of there.
Or no, the band called London, is that right?
Yes, they were like a junior college band of everybody played in that band but went on to do better things. And then London never went anywhere.
I surprised you with that metal knowledge, didn't I?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
Is London a British or a U.S. band?
No, they were an L.A. band. Nicky Sixx played in that band, and then he went on to Motley Crue, and Fred Curry, the drummer for Cinderella, went on, left that band and went on to be famous in Cinderella. Lots of guys played in that band, but that band never got like big, but it was the bands that the guys went into after that got big,
Yeah.
They were like a JUCO college rock band, cut your teeth and then move on.
Yeah. Well, that Cinderella, that it would have to be their first record. That album cover just, to me, just defines the hair metal look. Like, they have the buffiest hair and the most amazing outfits on. It was like, because I think that was that before Poison? Because that was just ultra glam.
Think Poison was before them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I think Poison's debut came out maybe before Cinderella's debut.
Oh, okay. But
I had a friend that saw, I think it was Poison. It was at Gazzari's, which is a very small club. And he was telling me, he goes, dude, you know how like you go to some gigs and it reeks of like marijuana and shit? He goes, this gig reeked of hairspray. He goes, the hairspray, the smell of hairspray was so thick.
I went to a lot of shows like that back in the day that it was either from the band or from all the girls in the crowd that had their hair stacked to the
it was the crowd. It was definitely the crowd.
Man, and a lot more people smoked back then, so I'm amazed there weren't more stories of hair catching on fire.
I caught my hair on fire once back then.
No shit. You're gonna tell us that story?
Yeah, come on.
And I was smoking Marlboro Lights, and they're just completely white, no like brown butt, it was all white. So it was in the dark, and I put it up and I lit it, and I lit the filter, and so the filter caught fire, and I leaned into it, and then my hair was probably full of hairspray, like Rich said, and it just started. Some dude said, "Dude, your hair's on fire." And I was just like patting it out.
Oh, you didn't know at first?
Oh no, I had no idea.
It was that puffy,
You must have had big hair, man.
It was pretty big. I'll have to show you a pic.
I would have hated to stand behind you at a show back then.
Dude, everybody that I hung out with had like hair like that, or not so much big, but everybody had long hair,
Was it like before you went out to a show, there would have been a fair amount of preparation to get that big?
Yeah. I remember my friend using a crimping iron, like to get his hair to
straight,
like thick, like completely up, like, and then he'd sit there with the Aquanet and just kill it. Our garbage in our bathroom, we had like 6 guys living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and our bathroom there was overflowing with Aquanet cans.
That sounds like
they were fun.
Sounds like something out of The Dirt, that Motley Crue book.
Yeah. 6 dudes in an apartment.
I'm sure there's a few stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my friend Scott, he was a punker, and he used to spike his hair. And what he did, he would get the Jello mix it in the water, and he would wet his hair with the Jello mix. It's basically sugar water, and that's how he got his hair to spike out.
So it would set. I've heard of like some. There was some ice snowboarder guy, and he used to have a mohawk, and it was in like separate, I don't know, spikes.
Yeah.
But it was huge. And he used to like put his head on the side of a table and just spray it with shit, and then go on the other side and spray that, so it would be just completely flat. That's why he used it. So it would just sit like a big rooster thing. And
that's like those guys in the band. Those guys in that punk band, the Casualties, they all had those big like mohawks, like that stuck straight up.
But that was like cool, 15 years late.
Yeah, they came in a little late.
The first person I saw with a mohawk was Darby Crash from the Germs.
Ah.
Like in '79.
Nice.
I was going to say, where did that come from? What's the connection with punk or mohawk? Never understood.
I don't know if it came from London. It either came from London or L.A. There's no doubt about it. Those were the two hubs of punk back.
I don't know. I can't remember how old it is, but it's what is it? The first Exploited record where the dude's got a mohawk on the front? Is that?
Hey, the Waddy from the Exploited, I think it was written into his record contract. He had to have a mohawk. He has a mohawk on every record he ever released.
The mohawk contract.
In fact, I don't have any tattoos. I don't know about you guys, but the one tattoo I was closest to getting was it's like a skeleton, like looking sideways with a mohawk. It's on their they Exploited their third album, and I was gonna get that right here, you know.
I know the one you mean.
I decided, you know what? I'm kind of glad I did now, because now the nerds have tattoos. You know, it's like everybody has tattoos now.
Yeah. It's you probably stand out more if you don't these days.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did you ever have a mohawk, Rich?
No. You can't pick your nose in public if you have a mohawk, man.
Oh, all right.
What does that mean?
I had a good job, man. I had my hair pretty much like this, and then there was also a time where I got those kind of like that mushroom cut where you get it shaved on the sides, and then I would let it grow on the top, and I would do that for like kind of like almost a year. And my hair, it was like down to I could make one of those devil locks like the Misfit guys, you know, down to here. But I would comb it like to the side, and I had it like that for a little while. But most of the time through the 80s, it was like this until maybe 86, and then I kind of quit going to gigs, and I kind of let my hair grow out more like a normal person.
Yeah, no. Being from Australia and from the country, there is evidence of me in the 80s with a decent mullet. Had the blonde mullet where like proper 80s mullet, where it's long at the back and you have a bit of a spike at the front.
Yeah,
that kind of job. And then, of course,
what was that, Joe Dirt? You know, like that Joe Dirt.
Yeah,
movie?
Yeah, that's right. That's the style. And and then like had hair down to my shoulders when I was in like, I don't know, year 12 when I was 18 to my 20s. And then I had a friend who had really tight curly hair, and he used to clipper his hair, and we all had too much to drink. Must have been 22 or something, and I'd always had long hair at that stage, and we thought, oh, that'd be funny if I clipped my hair off. And they were all disappointed because my head was relatively round, so it prepared me for later on in life.
Yeah, I was at my friend's Tom's house once, and we were all tripping on acid, and Tom's brother went into the bathroom. You know, we just thought he was taking a dumper nut, but what he did is he shaved his head. But he not only shaved his head, he shaved his eyebrows, and he came out of the bathroom and he looked like a fucking alien. I mean, we were tripping balls, and then he comes out like that. It was like, what the fuck, man? It was like, it was a weird experience.
You weren't happen to be watching Bob Geldof in The Wall? Doesn't he do the same? You know the movie The Wall, the Pink Floyd film?
I've never seen that. I've never even listened to that record.
Same thing.
He does?
Yeah. There's you could probably see it on YouTube. He has a freak out and shaves his head and takes his eyebrows
all Nazi at that point. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that. You know, Bob Geldof,
it's tough.
He gets a lot of shit, but I think he has a pretty good sense of humor, because early on the Howard Stern show, there was it's like before he syndicated, it was like a little cable show he had, and Bob Geldof was a guest. And I guess in the news, some lady got arrested in New York because she had like a hatchback, and she had her kid in the back of the hatchback because she didn't have a babysitter that day, and she ended up getting arrested. So as a gag, Howard Stern locked Bob Geldof in the trunk of a car for the duration of the fucking show. It was funny, man.
Jesus.
And finally, they let him out. He was kind of ticked off, but he was laughing. He goes, "You motherfuckers."
I actually saw him live when I was a teenager. I was like 16 or 17, when I still lived in like a rural country town in Victoria called Swan Hill. And for some reason, he did a tour of all of the rural Victorian towns. And his idea was, I suppose, that people who don't live in the city can go see him. And it was quite funny because I worked at the local, like part-time at the local music store, which sold musical instruments and CDs. And of course, we got all invited to go. And then beforehand, there was a meet and greet. And it had like all of the luminaries of Swan Hill, like, which was the mayor. And I think the next person down in the pecking order was like one of the car dealerships and things like that. So
that's funny.
Wasn't exactly the creme de la creme, but I got to give him credit. He had that ability where he could talk to anyone on that level and knew a little bit about everything. He was pretty cool. And then and then they played, and of course Swan Hill, this being such a backwards one-hit town, the biggest thing that come to it, and Bob Geldof doesn't sell out the local venue. Like, it's Bob Geldof, you're never going to see this. And I loved how, I think the first song or second song, it was really early, he played I Don't Like Mondays. And he said, well, there's the hit. If that's all you come to see, you can fuck off now. Which I thought was great. And then, of course, this says more about Swan Hill than Bob Geldof. A week or a month or whatever it was later, the Australian Doors tribute show came to Swan Hill and sold out 2 or 3 nights in a row, and Bob Geldof couldn't.
Yeah,
that says more about my town than anything.
I think that's pretty typical, you know.
Mm. But yeah, he was on a week or two later, he was interviewed on one of those daytime interview show things, and I can't remember what they're talking about, but he was just like, he said, "Oh, you think you've had a bad week? I was trapped in Swan Hill." And like, that was only time I'd ever heard my town mentioned on TV, and he was putting it down. It was great.
That's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
He had kind of a beef with Michael Hutchins from In Excess for a while. I think he started going out with Michael Hutchins like ex.
No, it was the other way around.
Oh, is that the way it was?
Michael Hutchins got with his, I don't know if she was his ex-wife by then, but I can't remember. But they were both pretty drug fucked, was the main attraction, I think. And yeah, Bob Geldof was fighting him because he was trying to take custody of the kids, because he thought so that was the thing, yeah. But that didn't end well for either of them.
Yeah, you don't do that kind of shit, man. That's like Eric Clapton going out with George Harrison's wife. It's like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah. What?
He never for her for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't care how much peace and love George had in him. It's like, fuck that guy. Like, and they were friends.
But they were still kind of friends. They even worked together.
Yeah, that's what smoking too much weed does to you, you know. Oh, well, man, let's just sit down and talk about it, dude.
They obviously never heard. Yeah.
You know the difference between a toddler and a 20-pound bag of cocaine is? Eric Clapton wouldn't let a 20-pound bag of cocaine fall out of a high-story window.
Oh, fuck.
Shit. Whoa.
Oh,
I was gonna just say, Well, those two obviously never heard of the term "never cut another man's lunch," but you really went there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. And yeah, by the way, cheers to all you Eric Clapton fans out there.
Yeah.
There's a definite dude who's a great example of diminishing returns.
Who?
It's like Eric Clapton.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to that guy, man. The album he made with John Mayall's good. The Cream, Blind Faith, and then, I mean, he left the Yardbirds because of that song "For Your Love." He said it's too commercial.
That was
And
a
then
great song.
You listen to his shit from the 70s. It's like, dude.
Yeah, no shit. Fucking
It's just
slow hand.
Yeah.
Nothing against JJ Cale, but for Eric Clapton, that was the worst thing in the world for him discovering JJ Cale, because from that point on, everything was on that middle of the road wavelength. Just that white man, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, like there. Yeah. And, you know, like Van Morrison, he turned out to be a complete asshole as well.
Yeah. I think Van Morrison was kind of a grumpy sod from the very beginning, you know, from what I hear, you know.
So I have a lot of hate for Van, but I absolutely love them. I reckon they're fucking awesome. And I think that's why I don't like him, because to my ears, like, them are like this awesome, edgy R&B garage rock band, and then it just goes into complete fucking Wankville after that. He's just got his head up his ass. And he sounds like a frog.
Yeah, not on the early albums. I don't think he does he? I don't know.
All right, I'm going to do my director's cut now. End of part 2.